It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. Hey, we're Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning.
All right. Hello. Good morning, everybody.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
What's up?
What's happening? Happy Thursday.
Yeah. Wow.
It's almost Friday.
It's almost Easter weekend.
It is almost Easter weekend. That's right. That's true.
Wow.
Yeah. Good Friday tomorrow.
I got to find time to watch my 2 Easter movies.
You brought it up during a break earlier off the air to me, and it just didn't, I don't know why.
Yeah.
It didn't register, but yeah, Saturday would be the day they normally show it, and the movie is
10 Commandments.
Yeah.
And the other one I watch is I don't know how it's become. I think it became an Easter movie because of my sister. She likes to watch it.
Yeah.
Like for Easter, but The Way. The movie The Way.
Yeah.
With Martin Sheen. And
I laugh on the 10 Commandments when you say it because I always think of Mel Brooks. I bring you these 15, crash, these 10 commandments. He drops one of the stones.
Well, I mean, it's, Cecil B. DeMille put together such a great, I mean, it's when you think about it, just, you don't have to be religious to watch that movie.
Have they ever? I'm sure somebody has. I mean, they did at one point, but recently, has anyone ever? Have they offered any local showings of that on a big screen? I would love to see the 10 Commandments on a big screen.
I have the Blu-ray, and it's really good.
Yeah.
On my big screen.
Yeah.
It's the sound is really good. I'm
Right.
on the surround sound.
Yeah.
System.
Right.
Yeah, it's
I got a 60-inch TV, so I in one room that I could watch it on. Yeah. So
yeah, I got a 55-inch. I was going to get a 65, but it just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
In the corner where I have it. And I don't have a wall in my house that's big enough. Well, I do. I do have a wall that's big enough, but it's not a room where I want to put a TV.
Well, our TV room, the 60-inch is actually small on the wall that it's on, so we're talking about how big we want to go. But the thing is, you have to have, in order to watch it, unless you want to look like you're watching a tennis match, you have to have enough room, to sit back away from the TV. We do in that room. My brother-in-law at one time had a 110-inch TV. I think it was when they first came out. And they, at the time, they lived in the St. Louis area, and they had a basement. And he kept it in the basement. And my sister told me that the problem with it is that there wasn't enough room to sit back far enough from a screen that big. I don't think they still have that TV. That would be a little too large. Unless you had a home theater. If you got like a theater. I have a friend who, at one time in his old house, had that. And it was like a theater. He had a popcorn machine and the whole thing. And yeah. That I would love to see that on a big screen, though.
But you just
10 Commandments.
you think about it. I mean, everybody in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
What great performances in the 10 Commandments.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from Yul Brynner is just he's fantastic in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Charlton Heston, of course, but Yul Brynner. I mean, Edward G. Robinson.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't have the rage to kill him?
Right. No, it was perfect casting because
perfect casting.
He brought that out. He just brought that out.
And Vincent Price too. You hated him.
Yeah.
It's like, I love that guy, and that's great character development.
Right.
When you do it, for a film in 1956. And then, the scenes, with the Jews leaving Egypt. I mean, that's just, that's what an unbelievable scene.
Well,
$13 million was the budget for it. It made $122 million on its original.
Is there a documentary on the making of it? There's got to be some stuff.
Yeah, I think I've seen some on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because for what they had then, the technology they had then, it's incredible even before you think about when it was made. And then when you consider what they didn't have available to them, this isn't the age of AI. See, this is what I look at.
Now, the flames, the wall of flames, but the parting of the Red Sea, for that time period.
Oh, the parting of the Red Sea was everything.
Just
it was
best ever.
Yeah, the flames looked almost live theater-ish.
Cartoonish.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Did you see the meme going around this week?
Huh?
If Moses had a smartphone. All right, I'm about to part the Red Sea. He's taking a selfie of himself. It's like
doing selfies. I love that. I look at, as someone who watches movies, not a movie maker. I look for them to. I want it to look real. I don't mind visual effects. Clearly, they weren't going to be able to actually part the Red Sea. Hey, listen, we think the weather's right, but I look for it to be as realistic as possible. Taylor Sheridan was talking about that on Rogan recently on what was it, 1882, 1883, one of the prequels to Yellowstone, and there is a scene where they're in the plains and the wind is just over the top. Well, they were at the 4-6's Ranch in Texas filming that on a day when the wind was over the top. They didn't have to use wind machines or anything, and so he took advantage of that. You don't always have that benefit, but I love the movies where they can make it look as real as possible. It drives me crazy when they look too cartoonish. I think a lot of the superhero movies that make gazillions of dollars, to me, they look too cartoonish. And I grew up with the cartoon versions of the superheroes, so none of that impresses me. But the Ten Commandments still today is one of those that in filmmaking is just incredible.
And since it came out, now I'm not going to see my dad for Easter. I'm going back in 2 weeks for his birthday, his 98th birthday. But normally, if I went back, my sister would want to watch The Way that came out in 2010 and sort of become an Easter tradition.
Love that movie
for us. Oh yeah, and people haven't seen it. Martin Sheen and Emilio Estevez actually did the movie. He's a main character in it, but isn't
right.
He dies in the beginning, so you see more of the spirit of him.
Wasn't the deal that he would make Mighty Ducks 3? He agreed to make Mighty Ducks 3 if they let him make The Way. Wasn't that the deal?
I didn't hear that
because I think that was he agreed. If they would greenlight that movie, and I think it was The Way. I know it was another movie, but aside from Mighty Ducks, but he was like, okay, yeah, I'm on board, but here's what I really want to do, as a part of this agreement, and I believe it's The Way. But one of the things in the character development in that movie, it's one of the greatest, I believe, modern faith-based movies. But the way that they develop the characters to where you have such compassion for each of those characters is the entire point of a pilgrimage, if you think about it, right? I mean, it's not just about what you discover for yourself or your own faith and to renew or reinstill or to, build a stronger foundation for your faith or whatever that purpose might be for yourself. But in this case, it's also that journey with others and building that compassion out. I think it's part of faith in general.
But people who are lost.
Yeah.
They're all lost.
Well,
in,
and-
they're
yes,
all lost
yeah,
in flawed
That-
characters.
which
For
is
people,
the proper
Right.
premise.
but quickly, for people who don't know, just the background on it, the movie is about a father and his son. Emilio Estevez is a son, much more of a free spirit. His father, Martin Sheen, doesn't agree with his free spirits, wants him to, live a more normal life, and he's going out to do the pilgrimage of the El Camino de Santiago, in Spain and in Europe, the pilgrimage for that. And when he goes, he dies, and his father goes to pick up his body, and that's where the story starts.
Right.
That's
And-
really where the story starts, and he decides to walk it himself and take the ashes of his son and spread the ashes of his son, and it's the characters that he meet in there. I don't know of a better movie that I've ever seen that has better character development from the beginning to the end, where the feelings that you have for those characters and the friendship that they created is so intense, spiritual, loving, and absolutely wonderful. And the
Well,
scene for me that does it is the hotel scene.
Yeah.
Where they all
Yeah.
where they
Toward the
get
end.
together, and the camaraderie of them sitting in that hotel room all together is one of that's like the culmination of everything, of all the character development at that moment right there.
Well, and that's it, and which was my point on building that compassion at the end for each of those characters for who they are as people, and for what clearly is going on with them and what they're going through, is the point of the entire journey for the characters in the movie, but then becomes part of the journey that the audience is taken on as a result. That's perfect in my mind, because you've got a mission statement for what the purpose of the film is, and it culminates in that. And when you can take the audience along from the beginning to the end in that way, and the audience, think about this, as an audience member, you're developing in the way that the characters are also developing. And that's exactly the whole point. And it's rare that you can do that. It takes a lot of patience, I think. It takes a great, thoughtful presentation by each of the actors, but also the direction, and all of it. It's very well done.
Remember, they re-released it last year. For that short time.
Well, they finally got the rights back to it.
Yeah.
And so they kind of went on a tour with it and put it back in theaters for a short time. Well worth watching and spending the time on, and any amount of money on, wherever you can find it to watch it, if you haven't seen it.
Martin Sheen said it's the best movie he's ever made.
I would agree.
And don't you agree, for a low-budget movie, and it's a very low-budget movie, it doesn't, the cinematography,
It's
the cameras,
rich.
everything,
It's rich.
It is as big of a box office feel towards it.
Well,
for a low budget movie,
because it has it serves that that greater purpose. I mean, for me, that's what I enjoy about a great movie is those characters. We talked about the character development in certain movies, whether it's comedies or what, over the years, and Planes, Trains, Automobiles. My gosh, the character development there, and where you go. You're kind of on a journey with the two main characters, John Candy, played by John Candy, and Steve Martin. But in this way, you're part of the journey in the same sense that those characters are part of that journey. And being able to do that and tie the audience in that way and engage you in that way is rare that you can pull it off. I've seen it attempted before, but this was so well done.
They pull it off so well. And the interesting thing is when you mention, for example, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which is great. I mean, because when they're walking down, when they're when they enter Steve Martin's home, and he's hugging his wife, and you see
Yeah.
John Candy sitting
Right.
there with his hat in his hand,
Right.
and that smile on his face. I mean, that's an extremely emotional moment for a comedy, and
Yeah.
so they were
Right.
able to develop those characters where the bond was really intense for anybody who was watching it. Now, double the number of people that you do it with. You've got 4 people that are all bonding together, and all of them build it with each other.
Yeah.
That's special to do that in
Yeah.
just, an hour and a half, maybe the movie is?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
do that in that time span,
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't explain. I wish I could explain how they edited together where you got that feeling for all 4 characters.
Yeah. It's so well done.
It really
so
is.
well done.
It's called The Way, in case you've never seen it.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by Howe's Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Well, only a few days left before we get a visit from that famous bunny.
It's Easter Rabbit, hooray!
Bugs, don't go there.
I don't think bugs symbolizes the things that the Easter Bunny was intended to symbolize.
That's Ann Eflin, historical expert with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So what has a bunny really got to do with Easter anyway? Well, first, Easter was around centuries before Christ.
Originally, it was a holiday that celebrated a Germanic goddess, Esther, or Easter.
Who was often pictured in early German culture as part rabbit. Then the bunny took on a life of its own again in ancient Germany.
The German story is that there was a poor woman who had decorated eggs for her family to find during a famine. When they found this nest of eggs and looked up, they saw a rabbit hopping away, and that's how they decided the rabbit had brought the eggs.
And that might just be where we get the Easter egg hunt and the Easter bunny.
It's Easter.
And we don't mean you, Bugs.
Yeah, here, kid. Have an egg. It's Easter Rabbit.
Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, it continues to be in the polls that immigration, the border, is the number one issue. New Harvard-Harris poll out there. Immigration, not inflation. Well, they say when they go immigration, not inflation, or the economy, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Inflation, economy is the same. They keep separating them, and I understand the economy. I understand what people are saying. Well, the economy is the GDP or the production of goods and services, whatever. But individual, when you ask people about the economy, they think about their own situation.
Right. Yes.
And that's how we view it. I understand that they're separate, but in a way, politically, they're not. Mm-hmm. But immigration, not inflation, or the economy, cited as the top issue among 36% of the people polled in a March 20th through 21st poll at Harvard Center for American Political Studies. 36% tagged immigration as the top issue, 33% inflation, 33% picked the economy and jobs. And by the way, that's really dangerous because of the top two. When you look at it, that means that it was listed by 33 and 23. You're talking well over 50%. It's inflation.
Yeah.
It's how they're feeling.
Right.
And you add on to that immigration, not good. Not good at all. Let me see. Demographically, 39% of whites, 41% of Hispanics, 28% of Asians, 28% of people ages 25 to 34 chose immigration. More Hispanics thought that immigration was a bigger issue than whites. 21% of respondents, and the only reason I bring that up is we're not playing identity politics here, is that the Democrats believe that Hispanics would always choose a border that was open.
Right.
That's what Democrats thought.
Right.
And apparently that's not the case anymore.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, so looking here at the CNBC, the CNBC All-American Economic Survey.
Right.
All right, about what Americans are concerned about and who has the lead and by what amount. All right, you ready for this?
Okay.
On immigration, because these numbers, and this is CNBC, again, not a conservative network by any means. As we know, you and I have always asked the question, they cover Wall Street. Why do they have so many socialists analyzing capitalism?
Exactly.
We just never understood that one. But on immigration, Trump leads by 48 points.
Wow.
Taxes, Trump leads 32.
Wow.
The overall economy, Trump plus 30. China, Trump plus 28. Crime, Trump plus 28. Inflation, Trump plus 27. And the middle class, whatever that means, helping the middle class, Trump plus 5. I don't know how you can be leading taxes 32, overall economy plus 30, inflation plus 27, and who's best to help the middle class, Trump plus 5. There seems to be a disconnect there, does it?
Yeah.
Not seem to be a disconnect.
That doesn't seem.
Wow. And now they had how they pulled it. Inflation was the number one issue for the economic survey that they did. But still, I mean, those are massive numbers, and that's why we said this is the opportunity for Republicans. And it's not just about Trump, because you can look at the Senate seats. You know, you would think that by the issues, all the most important issues out there, that where Trump leads big time on these issues, that you would think that, or not Trump, but the Republicans lead, that there'd be, if people had just rejected Trump, you would expect a much better lead in the Senate races, especially.
Yeah.
It's roughly the same.
Yeah.
So there is a huge disconnect right now. That could change by the time we get closer. I have a feeling this will be much like 2016. My gut tells me a lot of people will make their decision because these are economic decisions, and you're all the way by that time to October. And in 2016, the movement started. There wasn't really any movement. And all of a sudden, 3 weeks out, and Trump was still an unknown quantity.
Well,
and he's not now.
Yeah,
you can make that direct comparison. As you said, you basically have two incumbents.
You have two incumbents, and that's what really changes the landscape here and makes it rare. In fact, it's rare for this generation. It's rare in American history to have two individuals, both of whom have been president, running against each other. And so, but in recent years, think about this. You have the comparison, the direct comparison of Joe Biden as president and Donald Trump as president. And economically, and on the border, and on national security, on all of these things, the Trump years were much better for people. And it's not just because people, and we do have a tendency sometimes as humans to go, oh, man, I sure miss when the times when blah, blah, blah. Well, no, you can actually look at those times and say the economy was better. We were stronger on the border because of what I believe, in part, what Governor Greg Abbott of Texas has done in essentially making all these other major cities are now border towns, just like the border towns of America have been, and they've been dealing with it for a long, long time. Well, remember the mayor of D.C. Well, we shouldn't be dealing with this. That's for border towns to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and we look at those things of those comparisons, and if you don't include COVID, because that was, something that's an anomaly, that's an outlier in terms of a period economically of what was going on and what was going on what we were doing as a society. If you carve that out of the Trump years, it really is no comparison. It was so much better during the Trump years than in the Biden years.
And the thing that makes this a hard call, and the reason I think wherever the polls are going to move, you're going to see them move later, is because people are waiting to see what happens, to the economy overall. But this is the first election in my lifetime, I'll safe to say that, where nothing is hypothetical anymore, as we've talked about.
Right. Yeah.
There is no abstract. There is no, okay, if we do this, everybody will drive an electric vehicle and it will be fine and it will be cheaper and it will be just as good. Well, everybody knows it's not.
Right.
That's in. But when you look at, number one, inflation, debt never mattered to the American public until they felt the consequences of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're feeling right now. Everything you're complaining about is the consequences of government spending and the manipulation of the dollar by the Fed.
Yeah.
All of this. And the manipulation of the dollar is, buying our own debt, as we did for such a long time.
Right.
Horrible policies, things we should have never done.
Right.
And again, most of them, I'm not saying that there aren't Republicans that didn't want low interest rates. The ones who did, because who's going to say what we've said? Well, you need to let it flow more freely. You got to let it flow a little bit more market-based or however you do it.
Well,
I just don't trust. I don't trust a couple of people deciding. I'm sorry, I just don't. I don't trust them to decide the interest rates.
Well, it just seems so
because it becomes political.
And I would say for those those Republicans who were saying, supporting the low interest rates and everything else and the back and forth, when you're in that period, when you're in that mode, and I don't want to give them an excuse, by the way, but it's almost like being drunk at a party. You're going to pay for it tomorrow. Everybody else is drinking. You're drinking. And, hey, man, it's great right now. And there's going to be a price to pay for it eventually. And, that's the problem, is that you have to know that. You have to control that behavior. And being that disciplined is hard. And it is very critical right now for us to get a hold on it. But I don't have confidence that as a nation we will, because the rank and file individual, we're not, as a nation, we're not shouting for this, and it hasn't been a big part of this election cycle.
We'll use the best example. I saw the headline the other day. Both campaigns say they're going to be very vague on Social Security and Medicare.
Yep.
They can't tell the American people the truth.
Right.
The American people don't want to hear the truth. Otherwise,
because
you
the
could
truth
tell
is harsh.
Right, because the truth is going to be harsh.
Yep.
And
it's hard to do the right things when you get so far behind. That's the thing. You dig yourself into a hole. It's going to require a lot of work to dig yourself out.
Well, think about it. The American public right now, when Biden comes out and says, no change to Social Security.
Yeah.
And then Trump said the other day again, we won't touch Social Security in any way.
Yeah.
And everybody cheers, yay!
Yeah, right.
It's like, put our head in the sand, yay! We're putting our head in the sand, yay! And that's the reaction that you get. Because politically, the American the reason the politicians, you can't sit there and say the politicians aren't doing what the American public wants and they're being irresponsible, because the public doesn't want to face the fiscal situation that the United States is in yet.
Exactly.
Even with inflation. They're starting to come around to it, but the fact is Social Security is going to have to change one way or another. Well, we can't change the benefits. Fine, you're going to drastically increase what people put into it. Well, you're going to move the age back. You're going to do whatever. It cannot stay the same. That's not an opinion.
Right.
It's not, that's just your opinion. No, that's the analysis of where the money's coming from, how much money is going in, and how much money is going out. That's like saying, well, you've got a $10,000 balance on your credit card, and you don't really have to make the payments on it. If you're saying you have to make the payments on it, or if you make the payments, it's going to take you 30 years, and that's not the right way to do it, that you need to pay this off, well, that's an opinion. No, you got to pay it. You got to pay the minimum payment, and if you just pay the minimum payment, you're going to have debt for a very, very long time. Those are financial facts.
You and I often break down these polls of, where people are the happiest. What types of people are the happiest? Where, at what point in your life, age-wise, are people the happiest? Someone asked me the other day, are you happy? And my answer was, that's not relevant. And they were like, well, what do you mean? And I said, I'm doing what I want to be doing. I'm doing what I think also needs to be done in my roles, as a father or a husband or a citizen of my community or, as an employee or whatever it might be, as a member of society. And often,
I want freedom and autonomy. It may lead to happiness at times. At other times, it doesn't.
The point isn't. I'm not trying to because we've been in, for some reason we started down this road of you should be happy, and I think it started with the hippies, and this is a problem I have with one of the many problems I have with the hippies
or the Partridge Family.
Yeah, and it could be, and I don't think we all need to get happy, and I you can't coerce me. Sorry, Danny. But here's the we have a mutual, by the way, with Danny Bonaducci, we have a mutual business associate.
We share the same agent.
We share the same agent. And
did you see the
and we love Danny.
Did you see the picture on LinkedIn with Paul and Danny in a car together?
Yeah, singing
Come on, get happy.
Yeah. But there's been all this push to, well, you should be happy. You should be happy. Look. Whatever that means to you is for you to figure out. For me, it hasn't been about, well, my goal is to be happy. My goal is to be free and content, to have, because when you're free, when you enjoy liberty, as we're supposed to, as we set out in this nation at the beginning to be, it isn't about being happy all the time, because being free also means being responsible, and being responsible requires you to do hard things. It requires you to be disciplined, and the discipline every day sometimes gets, it's like, well, here we go again. Well, off the air, you and I were talking about, doing our taxes, and it's coming up, the tax deadline and things like that. It requires discipline in every. We were talking earlier about The Way, which is a movie on faith. If you talk about being faithful, if you talk about being a believer in God, then it requires you to be disciplined in that way. And there are moments of happiness, but it's not the point. Right. The point is to enjoy essentially all that is provided for you, but in doing that, being responsible for maintaining it and preserving it yourself.
Well, having my autonomy and being free, I can do everything else. Because when I said that to somebody a while back, they said, "Well, I thought you said, you need to serve, you need to serve people."
Yeah.
I go, "Well, I can do that when I'm free."
Right.
Free is what I want.
Exactly.
But being free means I know I'm not always going to be happy, because free means you're willing to make those tough decisions in life where you have to challenge things. Free isn't and never has been the fact of, okay, I wish to be in the pathology of dependency where somebody is giving me something and therefore they control me.
Right.
That's why when you look at the happiness index, well, the socialized countries have the people that are most happy. Well, they're judging happy by getting something for free.
And that's where we get into this, which is where I was going, when they want to spend, and not have to do the tough things on Social Security and Medicare.
Yep.
It's because, they just want to tell people what they want to hear. We got to do what we need to do.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow, I just can't believe that Easter's already here this weekend. Tomorrow's Good Friday, and it's like, wow, it's just so quick.
Yeah, it is crazy.
I did see the one politician was at New Jersey, was mocking and demeaning Easter.
Yeah,
it's like
that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, it's like
yeah. Go with that.
I'll make
politically.
I'll make sure I get that story for tomorrow.
Yeah,
it just popped into my mind right now. I just went, not a smart thing,
right?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.